Well, Davis, welcome to NOVASoMe. This is a new worldwide website dedicated to positive stories from around the world and free of sort of political bias and those kinds of things. So, you're one of our first guests that we've had on, and I thought it'd be great, to talk about a young guy like yourself that is trying to make a name in the comic book world. And you've got. We'll talk about your award nomination potential shortly. But let's just talk a little bit about Auric of the Great White North, how that came to be, and then we'll talk about a little bit more about some of the content and how it's going so far.
Sounds good. First of all, let me thank you for calling me a young man. I appreciate that. And thanks for having me. I appreciate that as well. Auric of the Great White North. Yeah, it's my comic book that I've created with Andrew Thomas, who's my artist and partner, and lately we have added Sharon Gauthier as our colorist from Gaspé, Quebec, and actually another part of our team now is Josh Rose, who is coming on, has helped edit the last issue, which was issue 5, which is the comic that we've been nominated for. And Josh is actually going to team up with me on the writing for the next story arc, which will start with issue 7. So,
So let's talk a little bit about the origin then of Auric of the Great White North. Obviously, you're a northerner, and you came upon this opportunity to put something together. So why Auric and why the Great White North?
Well, I was born and raised here in Timmins, Ontario. I went to school in Toronto. I've got ties from my father's side of the family from Toronto. So I was lucky enough to be put up for rent-free for the first 3 years of my education while I was out there. But once everything was said and done with getting my BA in English, I came home. I love it here in the north. Not your typical Northern Ontario guy. I've never been on a skidoo, but I'm not much of a skater, to be honest with you. But there's something about the people and the style of life up here that just connects with me and makes me feel comfortable. And Auric of the Great White North is kind of like my love letter to Northern Ontario and to Canadian comic books in general. So.
And how did it come about? You were mentioning in the pre-interview, let's call it that, instead of the technical glitch, we'll call it the pre-interview, that you're connected with the Timmins Con and Northern Ontario Expo, and the origins of Auric sort of flowed from that experience.
Yes, yeah. For I'd say about 7 or 8 years now, I've been associated with Northern Ontario Expo, which is a not-for-profit organization based here out of Timmins, Ontario, and we're known for putting on the big Timmins Con convention that is an annual show, usually a weekend in April every year, where I've acted as a artist alley liaison. So part of my job for doing that is keeping an eye out and reaching out and connecting with different artists that I meet online and striking up a relationship with them and trying to find a way to get them to make that 7-hour drive or that flight up north once a year and display their art and their talent up here. In 2014, I met with a great guy, Mike Ruth, fantastic artist, really well respected, out of the Oshawa area, and Mike came up, and at the time the expo was associated with the Lions Club of Timmins, and so Mike designed a character that the show could use for promotion purposes, which was a half man, half lion character shooting a bow and arrow up in the sky. It's a beautiful piece. Actually, I believe Jason Dennis, the president of the Northern Ontario Expo board, actually owns that that original piece. So I'm asking him if he can leave it behind for me when he passes
Well,
away.
I'm guessing that he made an investment there, thinking that if you take this far enough, that might be worth something someday.
Maybe. But I think at the time, I think he was just really impressed with the piece. Mike is a stellar artist who's been doing a lot of cover artwork for some of the major publishers. He's fantastic. So I think Jason saw a good opportunity to get a piece that he could put up on the wall and really show off something
Well,
beautiful.
hopefully he bought it for enough to give you a little extra cheese on the pizza or something.
I don't know. I have no clue. I wasn't involved with that
Okay.
interaction. So, like I said, hopefully Jason will be a good guy and leave something in his will for me. So,
Awesome. So let's talk then a little bit about the character Auric and how it came to be. I understand that Auric was born back when gold was first discovered here in Timmins.
yes. So the origin of our Timmins' very first superhero dates back to about 1912, where Auric was a young man working in one of the mines in Timmins, and they broke through a rock wall, and this mysterious gas came flowing out, and it went throughout the mine and out into the atmosphere, and everybody that it touched was affected and eventually turned into a monster, and including Auric, who was basically spent the time trying to help his friends out of the mine to, fruitlessly to save them from asphyxiation, right? So as Auric started feeling the effects of the gas coming over him, a a northern goddess appeared before him out of nowhere, and she basically touched him and gave him the ability to quell the beast that was inside him. So Auric basically has the ability to control the beast that he becomes, but it's also his duty to clean up the mess that's occurred that day and hunt down all of these monsters and beasts throughout northern Ontario, and I guess the Timmins area is ground zero. So he's based out of the the Hollinger mine.
The Hollinger mine system, yeah. There's
Yeah,
certainly no shortage. I mean, no shortage of mines that he could have been born out of here. So for those who do you happen to have a couple of the editions with you?
absolutely. I can show you right now. Um, this is the original
Okay.
book that we put out, and this was, like I said, 2015. We had 200 of those printed out. It was a 10-page story that I did with my artist and partner Andrew Thomas,
Okay.
and we made 200 of them for that year's Timmins Con, and we sold about 170, I believe, at the show. And a couple of weeks later, we sold the remaining of that print. And at that point, Andrew and I had the talk, like, do we keep going with this? Like that went over really well. So since
Why
then,
did it go? Why did it go over well? Do you think? People could have looked at it and said, "Oh, you did a nice job. It looks nice." But why do you think it went over well and people wanted to get a copy of it?
you know what? I think what really worked in our favor was the media was all over it.
Mm.
Like uh, CTV did a spot with me. We were on up north on CBC radio. The radio stations talked about it. Like I I barely had to try to ask for people to notice. You know what I mean? Like, look at me. I really didn't have to do very much lifting. You know what I mean? And when the media is on your side like that, it's incredible the amount of interest that you can gain from that. Like, people don't realize in this new Trump world where the media is the enemy of the people. The media is incredibly powerful, and can accomplish so much. It's amazing.
Well, it's in your DNA as well. I mean, your dad, people that happen to know you and happen to know me know that you and your dad, your dad and I worked together in television many, many years ago. So
That's right.
we'll talk about that maybe another time. So that's edition number one. And do you have a copy of edition number five, the one that you're nominated for? Do you happen to have one of those with you?
As a matter of fact, I just happen to have one here.
Mr. Preparation. Attaboy.
So,
Right on. So
let's
tell
see.
tell us about issue number five and why it's you believe that it's nominated for this particular award, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Well, issue number five is the second last issue of this story arc. Um, why it was nominated, I like to pretty much put most of that on my creative team. Uh, Andrew Thomas again, my artist. Sharon Gauthier is our colorist, and Josh Rose did some editing on this book, which helps. You know, I am an English major, but I am the laziest English major you probably ever meet. So Josh was able to catch some of my major goofs in my writing. So you know, I take pride in what I do, but I take more pride in the people that make me look good, and my creative team really does that.
So
So
if you had to give the 30-second elevator pitch to somebody and they saw you you're going up in the elevator and you've got a copy of edition number five and somebody turns to you and says, "Hey, that looks like a cool. What's that all about? What's the 30-second pitch on edition number five?"
well, geez, that's a good question. I'm so horrible at selling myself, but but in this case, you know, this is where the action really starts in the series. I know it's the second last issue, but we keep it really action packed in this issue, and this is where things start to make sense before you get the big reveal in issue six, which should be coming out hopefully for Timmins Con this year. So if you're looking for an action packed issue of Auric, this is it.
So the
There's a lot
common
of lead up. There's a lot of story world building when you're leading into a new series, and the first three issues did a lot of that with a lot of
So the
flashbacks.
common story theme or the common story line that's going through Auric is, if you had to tell somebody in the elevator, what would you be telling them?
Okay, a uh, Auric is essentially a superhero that is no longer in his prime. He fought a 100-year battle. He won. He
Hmm.
retired. He came back one day to see that the curse is back. So he's no longer in his prime. He has to start all over again from scratch. And he's not as fast. He's not as sharp as he used to be. And he's gathered a new team around him to help him become, to be able to take on the curse. So
Right on. So if you were to compare it to Spider-Man, this would be Spider Grandman or Spider Grandpa.
it's Uncle Ben. It's Uncle Ben putting on the mask, right?
So yeah, you've got to be tickled about your nomination. Now this is called Sequential Magazine, and I assume that it's kind of the bellwether magazine for people that are in the world of creating comic books and graphic novels. I would assume for the Canadian market.
Yeah, the sequential originally, I believe, started in 2002, 2003, and was initially just a blog that focused on independent Canadian comic book the whole scene. Eh? So they've been around for a long time, plugging for the little guy and the little guy and gals that have been working in this industry, plugging away, and they've been fantastic. And just in the last couple of years, a local boy, Brendan Montgomery, has joined with them and basically brought them into print. So now they're on their fourth magazine. I could even show you the last magazine cover if you're so
Absolutely,
inclined.
that's what this is all about. Sure.
It just happens to
Oh,
have another famous face on there.
that kind of looks like Auric.
It certainly does. Yeah, we were the main feature for the 2019 fall edition of the sequential. So that was a great honor to be. I think there was 4 or 5 pages featuring each member of the team. So we were pretty happy with that.
So it's not the Academy Awards by any of the stretch of the imagination, but their awards program. You're nominated as one of the writers to be considered as the top writer. Tell us a little bit then about what went through your mind when you found out about that.
Of course, I was absolutely honored. I am listed. I went through the lineup of some of the writers that were nominated, and they're very very talented writers. Um, uh, Chris Hannigan, he does a comic book called Group of Seven, which is fantastic. Mark Allard Will is a friend of mine that we've met, and he's from he originally comes from England, and he's now a Canadian citizen, and he's writing, and he's a fantastic guy, real talent. Tony White, who's did work with Chapter House as an editor and a writer, he's been nominated. She's just to be named with some of these folks is a real honor to me. But not to shoot it down, but to me the important thing is the nomination for Auric #5, because that's where my team gets to show what they were able to do, and I like to see those guys and gal get their reward. You know what I mean?
So you consider that your showcase edition so far?
So far, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really proud of the work that my team's put in there, and
Okay.
just being nominated for the writer thing is it's crazy. You know what I mean?
Cool. So, if somebody wants to know more about Auric, if they're not one of those people that likes to go to the comic book expos and those
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things, or if they're not the typical kind of person that walks into a comic book store, but they're intrigued by by all of this and
Mm-hmm.
they want to know more, are there websites that they can go to see more about that? How can people get more familiar with Auric?
Absolutely, yeah. We have our own website, greatnorthcomics.com. On there, you'll get a little write up about Auric. You'll see all the issues that we've printed over the years. That we have like a kids portal with some kid friendly. Well, all the Auric comics are kid friendly, but these are more kid generated Auric's Tall Tales, we call them, and they're free download comics for kids. There's some coloring book images that can be printed out for them. We've got a lot of stuff up there, and people are more than welcome to check us out on Facebook as well. Pretty much everybody's on Facebook, so
Yeah.
just type in Auric of the Great White North into the search bar, and she'll bring you right to our Facebook page. So
Okay, perfect. And the website again is?
greatnorthcomics.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Davis, thanks so much for joining me here on NOVASoMe.com and being one of our first interviews that we're going to share with people around the world. So hopefully we can get you some attention that way and shine a little spotlight on something cool happening here in Northern Ontario.
Thank you very much, Mr. B. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.